So many desires, or as many desires, so many blankets. Covering the radiance of the Spirit. We have to uncover to discover. We have to uncover, discover. We have to uncover, discover.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Divine Discoveries podcast. This is your host, Prat, and we also have Vikrum here, and we have a very special guest who I'll talk about after we get through our prayers. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sadguru Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Trembake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Ayam Saraswatye Swaha. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Mahakalikaye Namaha. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukameo Bandhanan Mrityor Mokshi Yamamratat. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha. Om Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Pandurangaya. Om Apadam Apahartaram Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Shri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham. Shri Rama Jai Rama Jai Jai Rama. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Shri Krishnam Vande Jagatkurum. Om Klim Krishnaya Namaha. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And Vikram, for those who might be new to our show, please enlighten them on how they can continue to follow us.
Yes, absolutely. So, folks, you can listen to us on all of the popular listening avenues, which are Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and then you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. For reference, our Instagram handle is divine_discoveries_108. And for our pages as well as our podcast, please do like, subscribe, rate, share your comments, spread the word. And we look forward to hearing any feedback that you have on whether it's topics or questions or anything. We're appreciative of your engagement with us. And speaking of engagement, we're extremely excited to share that we are being listened to in nearly 60 countries. So that's very exciting to hear, especially since we're just about a year and 4 months into it. So thank you for all of your support and love and spreading the word, and please continue to do so.
Thank you so much, Vikram. So on that note, we have a very exciting topic and one that we all are looking forward to talking about, and I'm sure you all will love to hear. So as I mentioned, we do have a special guest with us who was my co-host just, I guess, 4 months ago? For the special we did on Hanukkah and Christmas, and that is none other than Sangeetha Narayan, a dear friend. I'm so thankful that she could join us. And I remember when we were planning the episode that we covered together, at the time she had mentioned to me, sort of as a side note, that she has a strong connection with the deity that we're going to be speaking about in this episode, which is none other than Shri Hanuman Ji. And so somewhere it was in the back of my mind. So I'm glad that I was able to remember that, and she can add some flavor of her own to this discussion on Shri Hanuman Ji, who is everybody's favorite deity, really. I think an endearing one that everybody gets inspired by for so many reasons. From children to senior citizens, Hanuman is a favorite of everyone. So I'm very glad that we have connected together to speak about Shri Hanuman Ji. It's going to be a fun discussion, I'm sure. And we're going to cover a lot of things, interesting things about him. One thing I kind of wanted to say just as an introduction, is Hanuman Ji is unlike any other devotee of God that we have probably ever heard of or read about. The one thing I think that sets Hanuman Ji apart is he's not helpless. He's very powerful, and he has every amazing quality that you would want in a devotee, but he's able to get through challenges through his own might. But despite the immense strength that he has and the power that he has and the extraordinary feats that he accomplished that we all marvel at, the amazing thing is that he did it with zero ego, zero arrogance. There was incredible amount of humility in him. And, and it's always all glories to the Lord Rama, and that's what really makes me a bigger devotee of Hanumanji, because, for him, he has the ability to take on challenges, but he doesn't take any credit for it, which is really incredible. It's interesting that we often hear about the three major paths of yoga: bhakti, jnana, and karma. And many a time we associate Hanuman with bhakti, but he's also one who serves Ram selflessly. So there's the karma yoga aspect of it. And then he's also very wise, and he has tremendous knowledge of the scriptures. So he's also a jnana yogi. So it's incredible how there's a combination of all three instilled in Hanuman. So on that note, I'd like to go ahead and have Guruji expand a little bit more on the persona that Shri Hanuman Ji is.
Hanuman is the breath of God. Hanuman is the breath of everyone. Hanuman is the son of wind God. He is the cosmic deity, presiding deity over the breathing air, the prana, spandana, or vibration. Hanuman is the eternal servant of God, Shri Ramachandra. Hanuman has in him Shiva and Vayu, Devata, wind god, and 11th part among 11 aspects of Rudra or Shiva. That 11th part of Rudra is known as Eka Dasha Rudra. The Shiva Purana says when Lord Narayana Mahavishnu decided to take Avatara as Shri Rama to bless humanity, then that Lord Shiva decided that no one would know unless I reveal that Rama is Narayana, Rama is Heavenly Father, Sita is Heavenly Mother. Therefore, I must glorify my own other self, that is Mahavishnu, thinking thus Shiva incarnated as Hanuman. And this is why the Hanuman Chalisa discusses Shankar Subhana Kesari Nanda. Rudra is the most powerful aspect of Shiva. Shiva aspect is love and peace. Rudra aspect is destruction of the demons. As Hanuman has come to destroy evil spirits, evil karma, and evil in the world, and to bring the Rama Rajya, or the kingdom of heaven on earth. That is why he wanted to show the way, the truth, and life, and how to realize God in one's life. That is the main message of the avatara of wind god, in whom the 11th part of Rudra is manifest. Therefore, this study of Hanuman is the greatest of all the studies which is discussed in the Valmiki, Tulasi, Kamban, and all the Ramayana in a beautiful book called the Sundara Kanda. Sundara Kanda means the most beautiful canto. because that is the special relationship of soul and God. All our doubts regarding the relationship of soul and God is clear by the avatar of Hanuman. Hanuman constantly taught in his entire Leela, the divine play, that Rama, you alone are God, which means God alone is God. Rama, I am your servant, and all the souls are only your servants, the dasas. So the very word dasa, that master-servant relationship with God, came from dasa, Maruti, the supreme among the dasas or the servants of God. Whenever Shri Rama asks Hanuman, Hanuman, you have done so much for me. Hanuman, you have done more than any of my brothers called Bharata, Lakshmana and others, who also have dedicated their entire life for me. But no one has done that much of seva, the service, selflessly as you have done. Hanuman, would you kindly tell me, what shall I give to you in return to your seva? Hanuman has only one prayer constant. Again and again in Purana, in Ramayana it comes. Hanuman says, Rama, give me your Nama, means your holy name. Rama, give me your Prema, means your pure love. Hanuman never asked any favor from the Supreme Godhead. All the time Hanuman's prayer is Rama, Namo Nama. That is all he said, all the time. Salutation to the Rama from behind, in front, above, below, all directions. Rama's salutations are to the adorations again and again. Friends, this is the royal way. This is the greatest discipline. That the soul, time and again, falling at the feet of God, feeling His presence and telling God, I am thine. Lord, bless me, accept me as your dasa. Once God calls us and puts His stamp of love upon our soul and have accepted us as His servants, as His dasas, that is the fulfillment of life. There is no higher realization, higher siddhi than God accepting you, telling you again and again, in your heart, in your ear, in your soul, oh my dasa, I have accepted. I am always within and without you, protecting you constantly. Therefore, Hanuman became the greatest because he said, I am the least. In the Bible also you hear Jesus telling, whosoever among you is least shall be the first. To humble this ego again and again with the prayer that I am your dasa. I am your dasa. Bhagavan Shri Ramachandra Swami ki Jai. Universal Mother Sita Devi ki Jai. Mahaswami Lakshmana Deva ki Jai. Mahaswami Bharata Shatrughna ki Jai. Pavana Putra Hanuman ki Jai.
All right. So that was incredible. And it's interesting that Hanumanji, when I think about him, I always see him bow down on one knee at the feet of Ram, Lakshman, and Sita. It's a very famous depiction. And I consider the rest of the world, who are all seekers, are at Hanumanji's feet in the similar manner. We should all sit like that.
Das ke das.
Yes, because we need his grace to reach Ram, right? But of course, he would say, "Go straight to Ram. Don't bow to me."
Yes.
So that's the humility we're talking about.
Yeah, I think, and Guruji talked about this too, is that the most beautiful part of Hanumanji and worshiping him is that he covers two aspects of devotion. One is that, we worship him as a deity, and, of course, we look for his grace to get to Ram also, but also we pray to him as well, right? For protection, for strength, that sort of thing.
Yes.
But because he is kind of an ultimate Bhakt as well, an ultimate devotee, we also look to him to have that same level of love and devotion towards God. So he's incredible because he covers these two aspects. He covers the, we need your grace to get through difficulty, but then he also covers we need your grace to have that peace and that connection. So I think that's incredible about Hanuman.
And one thing that I'd like to add is you cannot be a devotee of Lord Hanuman without being a devotee of Lord Ram. He just takes you there. Even if you didn't start out, you will eventually, and you eventually start thinking, if he cares about someone so much, how great would that Lord be? You automatically make that connection, and he just takes you there. You don't even have to try.
Absolutely. And since you said it, Sangeetha, the connection you mentioned, please tell us about your personal connection, or what you've experienced in terms of Lord Hanuman's presence in your life.
So interestingly, before Lord Hanuman came into my life, Hanuman Chalisa came into my life. So just like in any Hindu family, we grew up listening to the chantings and the shlokas. So my mother was the one who introduced me to Hanuman Chalisa. And to be more specific, the Hanuman Chalisa sung by M.S. Subbulakshmi, who is one of the most well-known Carnatic music singers.
Yeah.
And when I started listening as a singer, it attracted me more as a singer than as a devotee, because there is a vibration to that chanting, and there is a vibration to that shloka, the way M.S. Subbulakshmi ji has sung. I instantly connected to it. And I started listening to it more and more and more and more. I couldn't stop listening. And the more I listened, I just memorized at some level. At some level, it just stayed in my head. So at that point, it was not even a connection to Lord Hanuman. It was more a connection to the vibration of the Hanuman Chalisa. And then around 2005, this was when my daughter was about 1 year old. So that was the first time that my first connection with Lord Hanuman and his power started. What was a common cold in the morning, by the night time, it turned into a life and death situation. In a span of that 12 hours. Morning, she was she was coughing, she was sneezing, she was sniffling. And as the night progressed, and around 9:30, she started throwing up. And it got very intense. And all emergencies start at 9:30 in the night when all the doctors are closed. So we had to take her to the urgent care. And there we take her, and there they tell us, no, that this is more serious. You have to take her to the ER. And we tell them, call 911. And they say, no, we can't call 911 from here. You have to go home and call 911. I mean, it was crazy time. So I just told my husband, the ER is not that far. I held her in my hand. He drove. We went straight to the ER. We drove straight. We didn't wait for anything. We just drove there. And there they took, when you go to an ER, you expect a 2-3 hour wait, because, at that point also, we didn't think of it as a serious thing. We thought just, okay, she's sick. She's really sick. We need to go to the ER. But they took one look at her. And the nurse runs in. She comes back with 2 people with a bed. They bring a bed. They put her on the bed, and they run back and said, that's when it hit me, this is gone really serious. So they take her in and they put her on treatment. She was having a hard time breathing. By then she was unconscious. And then they come out and tell us that, yeah, we have started the treatment, and we have to wait for half an hour, 40 minutes to see if she takes to the treatment. If things don't improve in that time, we have to put a tube down her throat to get her to breathe, because it was that intense. And they said that you need to call your support people, you need to call your family, you need to call your friends, they need to be with you for this. We had just moved to a new place, so our family was far away. We barely had any friends. I mean, it was just me and my husband in the hospital, and my daughter was on the bed. So we sat there. They took us to her room where they had started the treatment. I sat next to her. Something like, I just sat in like shock, not knowing what was going to happen. And the thought popped, sing Hanuman Chalisa. Out of nowhere, it just popped. And I didn't think twice that I'm sitting in the middle of the hospital room. The doctors are walking, the nurses are walking. I didn't care. I just started singing. Like right there in the middle of the hospital room, I sang the Hanuman Chalisa. It takes about 8 minutes, 8 to 9 minutes to finish it. I finished singing it. And then the doctor comes in at that time. He has been listening to me sing. He comes and asks me, what were you singing? So I told him it's called the Hanuman Chalisa. It's a prayer to one of the gods that we believe in, Lord Hanuman. And he goes, that brought so much peace to me. I am sure that must have brought peace to your daughter. That one thing, that one sentence that he said, it was like God himself said it or something. Because
Wow.
instantly I felt like, okay, it's going to be fine. And now she's still unconscious, but they say that, yeah, the treatment is working. They ask us to go have something to eat or something to drink. You guys are stressed out. Just go for a walk and come back. Because I'd been sitting for 40 minutes next to her. So we go out, and when I come back, the scene is the exact opposite. My daughter was up. She's sitting on the bed, surrounded by the nurses. They have all toys. They are bringing the children's toys that they keep in the hospital. They are giving her toys. And she's chatting to them as if, like, she has known them forever. And she just woke up from a long nap, all fresh. It was a complete reversal. It was like that night, like, that was my first true connection that I felt. And I realized that it was not just a song. There is a power to it, and there is a power, and that power comes from the deity that it is attached to. That Hanuman Chalisa is for Lord Hanuman. So he has a power. And that was like truly eye-opening for me. So that was my first connection with him. And ever since then, I've just been holding, like, how it works is like I go in some crisis and then I just start doing Hanuman Chalisa. Not that everything it makes all right, but it definitely gives me a strength to face whatever I'm facing. That was my first connection with him. And then over the period of years, on and off, it happened till the second experience that I'm about to share, that doesn't have as happy an ending as the first one. I wanted to share that because I wanted to show that there is two sides to it. Like my husband, actually, after this, I will tell you what my husband said at the end of this. This was like when my dad actually passed away. Before my dad passed away, there was a 8 to 9 month period of a major health crisis that he went through. For him also, it started as a minor headache. It started as a headache, and it kept getting... So when you go to the doctor, they are not going to immediately send you for MRI and X-ray. They try all different treatments. So a couple of months went by in, trying to figure out what was going on. He would go, they would give him some medicine. He would be all right, but then it would again come back. So then finally, at one point, the doctor said, no, this is happening too frequently. So they asked him to get an MRI. And that person, the one who took the MRI, he's like, how are you walking about? He takes one look at the MRI and his face has a shocked expression. Like, you should not even be walking. You should not be able to walk. That is how bad, like there was some kind of bleeding in his brain going on. It had been going on for quite some time, looked like. But he hadn't felt the symptoms before. Now he was beginning to feel the symptoms. But by the time he began to feel the symptoms, it got really bad. And they had to rush him to the hospital. And then for the next 8 months, he was in and out of surgery. He had like 2 or 3 surgeries done. And he was like, it was a very, 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 very rough time on my mom, me, my sister. My sister lives in India. She was in Mumbai. My parents were in Chennai, and I was here in US. So like I tried a couple of times. I went back and forth. I went there, I spent some time, and then I would come back. The second time again I went, because that by that doctors had said that you should call her, she should come and spend some quality time with him, because we don't know, anything can happen anytime. I mean, it was, he by then he was in coma. So I went for I had been there for just a week. My plan was to be there for like 2 weeks. It had just been a week. And during that time, my husband tells me that my son here, whom my son and my daughter were here with my husband, my son got the flu. And he was in kindergarten at that time. He was very young. So on the one hand, I have my dad over there, like, and here my son was sick. And my mom, the second she came to know, she's like, no, I will be with my husband. You go be with your son. Those were some, I'm surrounded by some very strong role models. So I'm so grateful of how strong my mom was able to be at that time. She said, no, it's like, he's sick, you need to go be with him, it's fine. And I had to prepone the tickets and everything, and I left. And at one point when I entered the plane, and when you go into the plane, you have to shut off everything. Your connection with the outside world is cut, right? For the duration of the flight, the cell phones are switched off, there's no connection with them. And I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, when I get down, and that's when I was talking to Lord Hanuman. When I get down, what am I going to hear? What are you doing to me? What is happening in my life? Like, on the one hand, my dad is in coma and I don't know what's going to happen to him. On the other hand, my son is sick. What am I going to hear when I get down? And I mean, I cried, I ranted, and in my head, like obviously in my head, and I was like basically having a full-blown conversation with him. What this experience taught me, I mean, like, my dad, eventually he did pass away. We were all expecting that to happen. It was heartbreaking, but we all held through all of it. And I think one big reason is my connection with Lord Hanuman. That saved me, that kept me sane through the process, so that I could be there for my kids. I could be there for my mom. I could be there for my sister in any way that I could be. And I still remember towards the end, I had even, I had recorded the MS Subbalakshmi version of Hanuman Chalisa. I had recorded my own singing of that, and I had sent it to my mother, and she had played it to my dad towards the end, like when he was reaching the end of his life. So, I mean, I feel like I would not have survived what happened during that time if it had not been my connection with him. It was a very, 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 very strong, and during that time is when my husband said something that really stayed with me. He said, the object of prayer is not always to get what you want. The object of prayer, it doesn't always mean that when you pray for something, you will get exactly what you're praying for. What you get is a strength to stick through whatever good or bad times you're going through. So that's your main goal of a prayer. The prayer doesn't say that, okay, if you pray for this, God will give you this, or God will not give you this. It basically says that just stay, just be still. I am there for you. I am with you. And you feel that presence when you pray, when you chant, when you do those shlokas, you feel him standing right next to you. Like, it's like, and there have been many times, like when I have a big fear of flying. So whenever there is whenever I'm in the plane and the plane is flying, and if there is even a little turbulence, I start doing Om Ham Hanumate Nama, Om Ham Hanumate, and I imagine that he's steadying the plane outside. It's what I do to keep me sane through that. All the little things that I find my connection with him. So these were two major events, one with a good result, one with not as good a result, but I would still say it is good because it made my connection to him even stronger because of what I went through. And
Wow. There
is one more. This is a very cute one. This is like a more recent event. This is something that you can see from my face, that it instantly brings smile on my face when I think about it. Like, I'm a children's book author. So as a part of being an author, I go to schools. I visit schools. I go to different places. Like, I go for story time. I go for international nights. So one such school, I was invited and I didn't know anybody there. it was a new school and never been there. So I was invited, so I just went. I went and I set up the table. But before I left, I'd had a chat with my Lord Hanuman, as usual. And like, you know what? I'm going to be alone there. There's nobody going to be there that I know. So don't let me be completely alone on the table. Let there be always somebody coming, and if nobody comes, you have to figure out a way that somebody comes. That's up to you now, how you do it. So I go there, I set up the table, I have my activities, I have my books, and the kids are coming, they're checking out the activities. It's coming and going, all that is happening. And then for about a brief few minutes, there was a lull, like all the kids had gone somewhere else. So there was nobody in that table, near my table. But before I could realize that there was nobody, one kid comes walking along. He doesn't have a parent. He doesn't have a teacher. He's walking alone. And he comes and he stands at my table. And I still remember his face. He had glasses, a tall, thin guy, must be a 4th or 5th grader. And he stands on my table and he looks at me. And I said, do you want to read the book? He shakes his head no. He hasn't spoken anything. He just shakes his head no. So I said, do you want to try the maze? I had bought a maze puzzle. So do you want to try doing that? He shakes his head yes. He goes yes. He nods. And then I give it to him and he's going zup, 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 zup. He's doing it like in a second he finished it. And then I'm like, okay, what next? Then I asked him, there was a word search. Do you want to do that? And he goes, yes, again. Again, this kid has not spoken a single word to me till now. I don't know what was happening, but I realized when he was doing his word search, I'm like, this is something different. I feel that something different was happening here. I had never experienced anything like this. You don't see a 4th or 5th grader kid not talk.
Yeah.
They are usually chatting. Or they are always with the group. They will have like 4 or 5 kids, or they will have parents, or they will have teachers. Somebody will be there with them. This kid is all alone. And then he does the word search. And I'm like, okay, this is I could feel that something special was happening. So I'm like, I want to take a video of you doing this. I will not take your picture. I will not show your face. I just want to show people how you're doing the word search. So I will just put your hand. So he shakes his head yes again. And I'm like, okay, this kid has still not spoken to me. This was the best one-sided conversation I've ever had with anybody. So, and then I take a video and then I show it to him that, see, I haven't shown your face. It's only this. Okay. Is there something else you want to do? He goes, no. Okay. Then I said, okay. And then he leaves. And that's when I realized the second he's leaving, there is a bunch of other kids coming right behind him.
Wow.
And then again, I got busy. So during that time, I did not think about it. All I knew was something different was happening, but I did not make the connection with what I had told at home, what I had spoken to my Lord Hanuman. So later on, I'm thinking about it. Oh my God, this kid, he came out of nowhere. He went into nowhere and he's not spoken a single word. And all he did was nod yes and no. And he only stayed for that bit of time when nobody was there. Because the second another set of kids come along, he goes away. He just walks away. It's like he's giving me company, just like I had asked him to do.
Wow.
So, I mean, there are different ways to take this, but the way I feel it is that my connection with Lord Hanuman has become so strong that even for the little things, he tries to be with me. This is one of my favorite stories. And then this is more recent. This happened just last year.
Wow. Amazing, Sangeetha. And yeah, I mean, you get to experience all kinds of things in this world, and sometimes miracles like these. And, I'm sure we all have a kind of experienced.
I am pretty sure. The thing is, we all take it as a coincidence and we just forget about it. But then you have to connect the dots. Once you sit down and start connecting the dots, you're like, he's constantly there. He's there. He makes his presence known in so many different ways if we just learn to pay attention. Now I have become very aware because of all this. And I'm like, oh, so you do this too now. So I have to be more cautious now. I have to keep seeing. I have to keep looking for you.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah. I mean, these are the kinds of things that you can't explain, right? there are so many things that happen in life where we want to use logic, but logic fails in certain moments, and you're just like, okay, a miracle just happened, and I don't want to use my logic to try to explain it, because there's got to be some sort of divine intervention here, and sorry, obviously that about the story that you had to share about your father's passing. That's definitely very difficult. And we just did an episode where we talked about death and, how it strikes in different ways, and how karma plays a big role in this, because nobody can escape it. It's interesting that I'm watching currently right now the Ramayan with my daughter. She really loves it. Of course, she's looking forward to Hanuman Ji coming on the scene, but we're not there yet. But we just saw Maharaj Dashrath, who's Lord Ram's father, dies, because of the mistake that he committed when he was younger. And he had that curse upon him where, he's going to die missing his son. And his son is none other than God himself,
and he still couldn't do anything about it. Yeah. Yes. So, actually, even like when you think about Lord Ram's life, he is the Lord, and he still faced so many trials in his life.
Yes, absolutely.
That some things you cannot, once you take that human form, there is not even gods can escape the trials that comes with being a human.
Exactly.
If you don't mind, I just would like to add this. Like even with my dad, I know that it was a hard time for all of us. Yeah. But one thing that it occurred to me, like when they were doing the MRI and everything, like how was he able to walk with the kind of problems that he had been having? During that time, he was very much high, and he used to do Hanuman Chalisa pretty much almost every day. He used to do Vishnu Sahasranamam. He was big into shloka chanting and those things, he was big into all of that. And I feel that had a big role to play that kept him going.
Right.
I mean, it kept him going until he could not go anymore. He could go, he could stretch it as far as he could take it. And I would say that those shlokas probably helped.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, if he was of a positive mindset, because that's what you get the positivity from, right?
Yes.
The strength, the positivity, the inner determination that I'm going to face this.
The vibrations, like he used to go for long walks. He would go to we had a Hanuman temple close to our house, but it would be almost like 30-minute walk. He was walking all the way there and coming back, walking and everything.
Yeah.
So there is some power to all of this, and that we don't realize it until it becomes a daily part of your life. Because otherwise what happens, it's based on your need. Like when you get a crisis, you turn to him, you turn to God, and then you forget all about it when things are good, and then again the next crisis comes, you again turn to them. But when you make that same thing a daily part, then he starts coming in so many little sweet, cute ways that you're like, oh no, I want more of this. I want more of this experience.
Yeah. And that actually helps you get through, I guess it helps you kind of be balanced with the good and the bad of life,
good and
right?
the bad. No, and it's like you have found something to hold on to when things are swaying around you.
Right. Exactly. Unbelievable. I mean, really unbelievable. So thank you so much again for sharing these stories with us, these personal experiences with us, because of course what we're going to talk about is a lot of, what Hanuman Ji did in the epic Ramayan and, all those things. But how is somebody impacted today, and how they have a bond with Hanuman Ji in their personal life and the experiences that we personally are experiencing, and it's not just stories or tales.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I knew that I had told you that if you're doing us Lord Hanuman special, I'm there. I'm going to be there.
Yeah. And I'm glad that God reminded me of what you said, so I'm thankful. And so, after hearing from Sangeetha, I think we'll delve into the amazing pastimes of Shri Hanuman Ji from that great epic known as the Ramayan. And there, of course, we spoke about the Ramayan a little bit more in detail in the different versions last year during Ram Navami. So please do go back and listen to that if you'd like. But since we're going to speak more specifically about Hanuman Ji, we obviously know from the Ramayan most often we think about the extraordinary, leelas that he did, sort of later in his life. But his childhood was nothing short of miraculous and very, very interesting to hear about. I'd like Vikram to shed some light on Hanumanji's birth and his childhood.
Yeah, thanks, Prat. Yes, it is true that oftentimes when folks think of Hanumanji, they think of him during his adult period and when he met Sri Ram Lakshman and he went to Lanka, he burned down Lanka, all that stuff we'll talk about. But that's generally what people think about. But his childhood was very fascinating in and of itself. And so he was born to Anjana and Kesari. Kesari was a Avanar, he was a monkey, but his mother Anjana, I mean, she in her previous life, she was Apsara named Punjikstala, and she was cursed in that lifetime to be born as a Vanari, a female monkey. But as they say that when you have these curses, and every curse, there's also a blessing that is put in there. So although she, had to forego her beauty and all that and live this life, who did she eventually be the mother to? I mean, what a blessing and what a honor. Hanumanji was born with that blessing, that kripa of Vayu, hence known as Pavan Putra, right? And he was an incarnation of Lord Shiva, which Guruji spoke about. But as a child, he was mischievous and naughty and very lovable. He was actually born with the name of Maruti. His name when he was born was not Hanuman. And the root of that name, Maruti, actually comes from the fact that he's the son of Marut, which is another name for the wind god. So Maruti means son of the wind. And he was born with immense strength, immense intellect. I think one of the most famous incidents of him as a child was that he saw the sun and he mistook it for a fruit, and he leapt into the air to eat it. And actually at that time, the whole world was engulfed in darkness, and Indra, the king of the gods, out of this kind of panic and all that, struck him with his Vajra, which is his thunderbolt weapon. And by doing that, he actually injured his jaw. And Vayudev got so upset at this that he stopped all of air. And eventually that forced all the gods to come or the Devtas rather, to come and ask for forgiveness. And then Hanumanji let the sun go. But that incident of being struck by the Vajra and breaking the jaw, which is in Sanskrit, that's called Hanu, right? That's where the name Hanuman actually comes from, which means the one who has a broken jaw, right. Which is something I learned in the course of. I did not know that, so that's a really fascinating detail, which I'm sure many of our listeners may not know either.
And it's interesting that that's the name that he's most largely known by. Exactly. All the other names, Maruti and all, people know that those are his names, but I think people think that those are secondary names. Right.
And they think Hanuman is the prominent name. But one kind of big incident that happened when he was a kid was, he, as I mentioned, he was mischievous. So he used to mess around a little bit with sages. They would be doing their meditation. He would lift them up. He would toss them up in the air. He would do all those kinds of things. And one sage got really, really upset at these incidents, and he cursed Hanumanji that he would forget about all these powers that he has, and he wouldn't remember them until he is reminded of it, and that it would be used for a righteous cause. So yeah, so that's a little bit about Hanumanji as a kid, and I think Prat, if you want from here, we can dive into the next phase.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think between what his childhood and until he met Ram and Lakshman, I think he already knew that he was going to serve Lord Ram eventually. It was just a matter of things playing out where they would meet each other in the Kishkinda Kand, that canto where Ram and Lakshman are looking for Sita Ma, and she had just been abducted by Ravan. And, they came across this old saintly woman, Shabari, who had, given them, that's the famous anecdote is there where she gives them the berries that were tasted for sweetness. And she tasted them, and, that's a wonderful story in and of itself. But she's really the one who tells Ram and Lakshman that they should go in that direction where the Rishimukh mountain is. And that's where the Kishkinda Khan begins, I believe. And Ram and Lakshman are approaching Sugriv's mountain cave. And he starts to wonder whether these two humans who are walking towards his habitat there, he's wondering whether they're actually a threat to him, because his brother and Bali and himself don't get along. So he thought they were a threat. So he sent none other than Hanuman, who's always the trusted one, the one you call upon. Even though he wasn't at this point reminded of all his powers, but he was still wise. He still had the powers to disguise himself, to speak cleverly. These are all the, amazing qualities he had that weren't necessarily supernatural, but made him an intellectual and very wise and witty and everything. So, I mean, he changed his disguise, came there as a Brahmin, and asked Ram and Lakshman what was their purpose of the visit. Why are they lurking around this area? And then, they have their conversation, and then he asked them, who are they? And of course, they say they're Ram and Lakshman from Ayodhya. And that's when Hanuman realizes that, the Lord that I've been waiting to serve, I'm finally meeting him face to face. And then they have that embrace for the first time when he comes back in his normal, his regular form. And after that, one of my favorite moments, actually, which a lot of people probably don't think about, but I love that image of Hanuman flying with both of them, Ram and Lakshman, on his shoulders. It's such a beautiful image, And think about the grace of the mercy of Lord Ram, who's allowing Hanuman to show his prowess in that manner. That was a very beautiful Leela there. And of course, the friendship is formed with Sugriv and so on and so forth. So, but then we come to the point, Vikram, where, you were talking about how he had to be reminded of his powers, the powers that he at one time that he misused as a child. He had to be reminded of it. And when was that? When they ultimately came to that shore there where they knew that, okay, we're all going in this direction. They had different factions of these Vanar army who had been sent to different directions. And, I think it's interesting that at that time, many of the Vanar Sena, including the older bear who was Jambavant, were all trying to see how far they could jump and leap and go, across that ocean. And ultimately, they all said that, even I think Angad was the one who said that I can make it there, but I can't come back. So ultimately they said, and I think Jambavan was the only one who knew that Hanuman was the one who could do this.
And the beauty here, Pratyaksha, is that he was the quietest in the group.
Right.
The one who was actually the most capable of doing it was the quietest in the group. He had nothing to say.
Right. And that could have been because he probably felt like, he didn't have that knowledge of his own powers, right? He probably didn't feel like he could have done it. But then once he was reminded, I think that confidence came in him and that knowledge, okay, I can accomplish this, came
And I
in
think
him,
that was
yeah.
a part of that curse too. Like they had said that somebody that you there will come a moment in time when you will be reminded of it by someone, and then you will
Right,
remember everything.
right.
I mean, it's if you really connect all those things, it's also beautifully arranged.
Yeah, very beautifully arranged. And of course, you know, even after he's reminded of it, what does he say? Jai Shri Ram, right? He becomes so humongous in size and starts flying across that ocean. And one of the things that actually there's a lot of symbolic significance, if you will, where as he's on this journey now, trying to fly across the ocean, there are a lot of different distractions and obstacles that come in his way, right? And, you know, like, for example, the Mount Mainak is offering him, you know, some resting time. He says, why don't you rest? You know, you'll wear yourself out, rest a little bit and then go tomorrow, right? So it's just a distraction to stop him in his tracks, so to speak. But he doesn't yield to that at all. He's like, no, I'm on a mission, and when I'm on the Lord's mission, for me that comes first. I can't rest until I accomplish my mission. And then he has a couple of demonesses that come in his way, and one who tries to use her, you know, one who tries to like eat him basically and opens her mouth, and he becomes so big to outsmart her, you know. So she opens her mouth really big to try to see if she could encapsulate even that big-sized Hanuman. And then he suddenly turns into this really small, minute size of Hanuman, goes inside her mouth and comes right back out. And he says, see, I fulfilled your desire, you know. So then there's another one who catches his shadow, Simhika, I think her name is, and he kills her. So all of them had one curse or another because of which they had to take that form of a demon. And just with that association with Hanuman, through that experience, they gain the liberation. And then, of course, you know, when he enters Lanka, there's Lankini right at the front door. And she had also been, I think, told by Brahmaji that when an ape man like Vanar actually strikes you in the face, in your mouth, punches you in the mouth, that's when you're going to realize, you know, that the end is near for your king, Ravan. And Hanuman does do that, you know. But the interesting thing about all of it is, in one way, it's symbolic of the fact that, you know, when you do have a mission to accomplish, whether it's, you know, and especially the righteous ones, you will have obstacles in your way, but you have to face them calmly, with confidence, with the positivity that, you know, I'm going to get through this. This isn't going to stop me from ultimately getting to the end of this mission. So, you know, that's the greatness in this, and something symbolic that we can learn from it.
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, one of the other interesting leelas of Hanumanji was the saving of Lakshman during the Ramayan war. You know, Lakshman was hit by a spear, had fired a weapon, and Lakshman basically was gone. He was dying. And so the only solution was to get a particular herb from I'm blanking on the name of the mountain.
Yeah, it was the Dronagiri.
Dronagiri
mountain.
Dronagiri mountain. And, you know, actually, in order to even figure out that information, Hanumanji brought Sushen, who was the royal doctor for Ravan, to help them find the solution. He brought him with his house and everything.
Yeah.
And so he advised that. And Hanumanji goes on his way. As he's going on his way, this is, again, a case of more obstacles, right? What he doesn't know is Ravan has sent one of his demons, Kalnemi, to stop Hanumanji. So he's going, and Kalnemi takes the form of a sage and is, singing, Ram bhajans and whatnot. And of
Yeah.
course, Hanumanji gets intrigued, right? Because he hears that this fake sage tells him that, oh, I know where it is. I'll tell you, but just, go take a bath. And Hanumanji's
Make
attacked
yourself
by,
comfortable.
make yourself comfortable. Yeah. Hanumanji's attacked by a crocodile in the water, and he kills the crocodile, and the crocodile was a cursed being, and the soul informs Hanumanji that sage is not really one. So of course Hanumanji,
Mhm.
he kills the demon, and then as Hanumanji went to Dronagiri to find the Sanjeevani herb, he couldn't exactly identify which one it was. So he
Right.
said, I'll just go ahead and I'll take the whole mountain with me. But yes, he brings the Sanjeevani, and Sri Lakshman is brought back very quickly. And I look at the integral aspect of Hanumanji during the Ramayan War. I would probably compare it to how important like Arjun was to the Mahabharat war.
He was the
Like that
MVP.
MVP, exactly. He was the
Yeah.
MVP.
Yeah.
And
Doubt. It's crazy to say that, because the Ramayan is obviously the story of Lord Ram,
yeah,
and Ram is the one who Hanuman is serving, but yet Hanuman does more supernatural, more extraordinary acts
right,
compared to Ram. He does more than that,
right.
It's interesting, another one that comes to mind, Vikram, is not just when Lakshman was hit, but when both Ram and Lakshman were both hit with
Yes.
the snake,
The Nagpash, yeah.
Nagpash, the snake arrow. And he somehow wisely realized that, hey, what do snakes fear the most? And that's birds or eagles. So he went and got Garud,
Yeah,
who we spoke about Garud Puran last time, and and he involved him in that Leela. And so that was very interesting. And
right.
just somehow he knew, not only did he have the prowess to accomplish these things physically, but he also had that cleverness and that intellect that you spoke about earlier. So
Right,
he was very
right,
wise.
right. And it's also interesting. His presence is not just limited to the Ramayan. He
Right.
happened to have big role to play in the Mahabharata as well.
Yeah.
And even in the life of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna had recognized that some of his bhakts, whether it was Arjun, whether it was Bhim, that they had grown to be a bit arrogant with their
Yeah.
prowess and
He-
all that. And Hanumanji helped Lord Krishna break their egos.
yeah.
With Bhim, it's the amusing story when they were in Vanvas that Bhim was out walking and he saw an old monkey lying in his way and with a really long tail, and he said, move your tail.
Mhm.
And the monkey said, "Oh, I'm too old. I can't do it. He's like, I'm just resting here." He said, "Please move your tail." He's like, I can't. I'm too old." He's like, "Why don't you move it? He's like, "Okay, fine, I'll
You
move
look
it.
pretty young and strong.
You look pretty young and strong." So he's like, "Yeah, yeah, sure. What is this?" So he goes and he tries to move it. He's unable to lift it. And then Bhim, of course, realizes that this is none other than Lord Hanuman. And they were spiritually brothers because
Yeah.
Bhim was also born from the blessing of the wind god.
Wendigo.
And then, with Arjun as well, he had helped break his ego. And the result of that particular incident was that Hanumanji resided in the flag that
Mhm.
was on the chariot that Arjun had, that Lord Krishna himself rode. But I think, for me, if I talk about that, previously I've talked about, that one incident which I think is beautiful, which is where Hanumanji asked for Ram and Sita to be forever etched in his
Yeah.
heart,
In his
right?
heart. Yeah.
I've spoken about
Yep.
that one and
Yep.
that,
Yep.
but another thing that is also kind of beautiful is so Balramji also developed an ego, and
Yeah.
Hanumanji helped dispel that. But once that happened, Hanumanji asked Lord Krishna and Ma Rukmani and Balram, he said, "Hey, I have a desire that I want to see you in your Ram form."
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Lord Krishna granted that request. But it's just beautiful to just see that devotion continue to transcend across avatars. He's played a role in Mahabharat as well. So
Yeah.
That many people may not immediately make that connection.
Yeah. No, it's a great thing that you brought that up because there's some continuity between the yugas, and people don't think this is an exclusive story where there's no characters that sort of overlap, And there's some examples of overlap that we can see among certain personalities being there across the aeons, And one of the things that you brought up about Hanuman being on the flag of the chariot was that, almost every warrior in the Mahabharat war had to replace their chariot at some point or another, except Arjun. And many may attribute that to Lord Krishna being God and him being the charioteer and him protecting the chariot through his own powers, which may be the case. We don't really know. But ultimately, he gives the credit at the end of the war. And Krishna actually takes Arjun outside of the battlefield, and then they get off the chariot and they talk about it. And he says, "Do you realize that we were the only ones who didn't have to change our chariot?" And he asks Arjun, "Do you know why that is?" Because Hanuman was there to withstand the blows of those weapons, which is an incredible story.
Right.
So once again, Krishna is giving Hanuman all this glory,
Right.
and a chance to shine because he's such a wonderful devotee,
Right. And the other thing, we talked, Maruti was his name, Hanuman was his name, Pavanputra, Bajrang Bali, all, all these names. But one other name of his, which I'm sure our listeners will really be intrigued by this, is Chiranjeevi, meaning immortal.
Yep.
Now, when the Ram avatar was coming to an end, Hanumanji was told by Lord Vishnu that, you have to stay on earth. You have to stay on earth through Kali Yuga, and you have to continue to spread this message of devotion through that time, because in that time, that devotional message is going to be needed, and it is the single door that people can follow to achieve moksha. We've talked in previous episodes about how in each yuga there was a lot more things people had to do to achieve liberation. But in Kali Yuga, the single thing you have to do is to
chant the holy name, sing
chant the holy name, be devoted. And so someone like Hanumanji is needed for that. And so, the stories say that he is still here. He is believed to reside in the Himalayas, and he takes forms and he goes to wherever Ramayan is being
sung,
presented, sung,
or read,
and for his true form, he appears to those who have that absolute devotion and have a pure heart. And kind of another maybe fun fact I would say is that there's a relationship between Shani Dev and Hanumanji. So basically, if you are worshiping Shani Dev, you should also worship Hanumanji. They share a sacred bond. Basically, Hanumanji is sometimes acts as a protector when Shani Dev has some more maybe harsher karmic lessons that he wants to impart. But Hanumanji had actually freed Shani Dev from Ravan's captivity. And after that, Shani Dev vowed that he would never put severe penalties on Hanuman's devotees. And so it is that reason that that connection is there.
Yeah.
Shani Dev, as we know, is one of the 9 planets, and Ravan had captured them.
And if I'm not mistaken, Shani Dev was the son of the Surya Dev, right? The sun god. There's also the story of Hanuman receiving his education, all his knowledge of the scriptures, and all the knowledge that he had that he was able to utilize later in the Ramayan. He had gained so much wisdom from the sun god.
Yes.
From Surya Dev. He was actually the one that he had eaten like fruit. Ultimately, after he realized that it was a mistake, he had surrendered and requested the Surya Dev, the sun god, to be his preceptor or guru.
Right.
And that's an amazing story, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And I think as a result, Hanuman wanted to give him a token of his appreciation as a student, what we call Guru Dakshina.
Right.
And the sun god was like, it was a delight for me to teach you. So the Surya Dev was very humble about it and really didn't want anything. But then Hanuman insisted. And that's when he said, my son Shani Dev sometimes tends to get in trouble, or he might, whatever. So can you please guide him and protect him and stuff like that? So I think this is probably connected to the story you just told.
Right. And I usually do one day of Shani Dev Puja every year. And
that's interesting.
When we do an episode on that, I'll explain why. So I'll leave that for another one. Yeah. But when we do that, the way that the puja is conducted is not through some sort of stories of, like, it's not like there's not like a Shani Dev Chalisa or a Shani Dev Puran or something that is discussed. The puja actually involves hearing the Sundarkand.
Yeah.
Because of this connection between them. So Shani Dev's puja, he prefers that the Sundarkand is what people listen to.
Wow. Yeah, and you know what? That's what I hear most of the time when I often hear that people are hosting Sundarkand study or Prat, as they call it, the reading of the Sundarkand or the singing of the Sundarkand. That's what I hear most of the time. You don't really hear them saying the entire Ramayan or some other canto. Right. It's usually Sundarkand because that's what highlights the amazing feats of Hanuman.
Yeah.
One of the characteristics of Hanuman Ji that I really love is his calmness. Even when he kills the demons or he confronts them or he's speaking to them, you never feel like he's hating them. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not, like, even during the war, when he's killing the demons, within himself, Ram Nam is always going on. And there's no hatred or anger on his face, that rage or fury. You don't see that. Right. He's like gracefully killing these demons. It's like, it's unbelievable.
There's in the Ramayan Sagar Ramayan, when he is crossing the ocean and he encounters Sursa, the first demoness, right?
Yeah.
The way that he talks to her, it follows along those lines that you're saying, because she says, basically, I have to eat you and this and that. Yeah. And he very calmly, he doesn't get mad. He's just like, okay. He's like, but right now I'm doing Sri Ram's work. I have to go to Lanka and I have to figure this out. When I come back, then, I'll come. Well, that's how he explains it. He's like, I'm doing this right now, but that's fine. When I come back, then,
he's very calm about it.
Very calm about it. And then she's like, I don't believe you, and I need you to come in. And he does the bare minimum. He goes into her mouth and he immediately flies out.
Right.
So
and I really love the way Hanuman is so in tune with Ramji's personality, because if you think about it, Ram is collected, composed most of the time. Very rarely do you see him get upset about anything. Right. And the moment, the one anecdote I want to bring to light is when Vibhishan Ji decides to leave Ravan. He's actually been, sort of kicked out of Lanka, and he's now helpless. And he says, okay, I might as well go join the other group, and he comes there not knowing whether he'll be accepted or not. And most of them don't want to accept him, even before they meet him. Of course, Hanuman Ji had met him before that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even if he hadn't, he said, we shouldn't judge somebody just because they're coming from a certain clan, that they're instantly evil, And he gives examples of Prahalad and Bali, who had done noble things, deeds, even though they're from the demon clan. So somehow he was a perfect devotee who really fit in so well that they both saw each other eye to eye, whereas everybody else was like, we should look at this guy with a doubtful eye. We should maybe even kill him.
Right.
He could be a spy.
Right. And the other thing is, Hanumanji actually, when he went to Lanka, he did have the opportunity to briefly meet Vibhishan as well, because when he was flying around, he saw that there's a house where there's like a Shank and Chakra and Tulsi, and he heard Ram, Ram, Ram coming, and then they had that, they had this beautiful conversation and all. But the other very important thing about Hanumanji, towards the end, now this is actually in Uttar Ramayan, towards the end of the Ram avatar, when Sri Ram's avatar, when he's completed all of his things that he needs to do, Yamraj comes to meet him, the god of death. Do you know this story, Prat?
Yes.
Yeah. So he comes to meet him, and Lakshmanji is there, right, outside guarding the door, and Yamraj comes as a sage, and he said, I need to meet Sri Ram, but you have to promise me that you're not going to let anybody in. Or he tells Sri Ram that you have to promise you're not going to let anybody in, and if that somebody does come in, then you have to give them the death penalty. So Lakshmanji's outside, and meanwhile, the very moody, angry Rishi Durvasa also shows up, and he wants to meet Sri Ram, and Lakshmanji says, no, he can't. He's in a different meeting right now, and I can help you. But Durvasa says, no, I only want to meet Ram. You can't do anything for me. And if you don't help me out, I'm going to destroy the city. So Lakshman is in a conundrum. He's like, well, this Guru can certainly destroy Ayodhya, but if I go in, I'll get the death penalty. But it's more important that Ayodhya gets saved than me not dying. So he goes in, and then anyway, he breaks it, and Sri Ram is very upset, and so Sabha, court is called, and death penalty was what was agreed upon. But Hanumanji actually advises Sri Ram that sure, there's the straightforward death penalty, but if you also banish someone and basically forsake them, that is equivalent to a death penalty. So my advice is you renounce him. So Sri Ram takes that advice, but there was compassion there, because Hanumanji obviously did not want there to be a violent end to this.
Right.
So he played a role there as well.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a great story. It's a great story. So moving along, I want to touch on some unique tidbits here. Have you heard of the Adhyatma Ramayan?
I have, but I don't know much about it.
Okay. So here's the interesting thing. When we think about all the Puranas and the Vedas and all of this we've spoken about, we've almost made reference to Veda Vyasji in almost every episode I think we've done, somewhere or the other, right? And we give him the credit for all of these, except for the Ramayan, right? We say the Ramayan has been written by Valmiki and Sant Tulasidas and all the other great poets and saints who wrote it in different languages, which we spoke about. And of course, he had referenced Lord Ram's avatar in the Bhagavad Purana and Vishnu Purana probably, and a bunch of other ones. But interesting thing is, there's a Puran called the Brahmanda Purana, okay? And in that comes the Adhyatma Ramayan, which is a very shortened version of the Ramayan. And it covers very specific episodes of what that story had had in it. So this is where we have an interesting connection of Vedavyas and the Ramayan itself. So the Adhyatma Ramayan is credited to him. So now we can no longer say that he didn't write the Ramayan. So he wrote a very mini version of it within a Purana. And in that, there was an interesting conversation between Lord Hanuman and Ram. And they had a very deep spiritual conversation. And Ram had asked him, Hanuman, how do you perceive me? How do you view me? And Hanuman says, at the physical level, when I believe that I'm the body, I am your faithful servant. Okay? At the spiritual level, when I know that I'm the soul, I am a spark of of your eternal light. Okay? So that means like he's saying I am a spark of you, ansh of you, right?
Right.
Like it's like a tree and saying I'm one of the branches, right?
Right.
The other one, the last level is the absolute level. And he says, when I have the vision of truth, meaning once I have realized the truth, you and I, my Lord, are one and the same, which is Advaita, right? So think about it. The three major schools of Vedanta are covered here. So when you think
all at once.
Yeah. So when you think of yourself at the body level, you say, I am the servant, you're the master. So there's Dvait right there.
Right. Right.
And then the middle one is Vishishtadvait, right? Where I'm part of you, but I'm not you, but I'm a part of you.
Right.
And then we're one and the same when I reach the depths of my heart and I realize who I truly am. You and I are non-different. So this is quite amazing. Because those schools of philosophy came way later, but then the three of them were broken down right there in the Adhyatma Ramayan. So that was something very unique that I got to learn. Have you also heard of or seen the image of Lord Hanuman in the five-faced Panchamukhi Hanuman?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's some details I'd like to provide on that. So it embodies the five pranas. So the pranas are the five vital airs, okay, that we have. So Lord Hanuman is actually, because of his grace, these five vital airs are allowing us to survive, right? Because we could fast without food, we could go without water for some time. Obviously, you go long enough, you're going to die. But without the vital breath and the air, you can't survive. We have to breathe. So the five vital airs are called Prana, which governs inhalation, respiration, and mental clarity. Apana, which is responsible for elimination, detoxification, groundedness. Samana balances digestion, metabolism, and energy production. Udana, which governs speech, expression, and upward movement. And Vyana, which is responsible for circulation throughout the body. So these five vital airs, Prana, of course, the Mukhya Prana is Hanuman himself, but then he also governs the functionality of all five of them within our bodies. Right. So Hanuman is very instrumental in our breathing and our, just our ability to function physically.
Right.
That's amazing to learn, right? From a scientific perspective.
Right.
And the five faces that Hanuman has in that is, of course, Hanuman himself. And so Hanuman represents Prana. In the other one of the other faces is Varaha, the boar, the divine boar, and that is Apana. So he represents Apana as Varaha, and then Vyana as Hayagriva, which is another incarnation, I think, of Vishnu. Narasimha is Udana, and Garuda is Samana. So it's very interesting how all of these come together to represent the five vital airs that we require to survive. And I saw an interesting tie-in to the characters of the Ramayan. So Hanuman is the Mukhya Prana, the very embodiment of the life breath. Without him, there's no movement, no vitality. So he is the Prana Swarupa, ever flowing towards Rama. Udana Vayu is considered Rama. So Rama is
Right.
the upward aspiring force, the lordly will that leads the jiva, or the soul, to moksha. Udana governs ascent, speech, and divine authority. All Rama's qualities as Maryada Purushottam.
Right.
Apana Vayu is considered Vibhishan, is identified with Vibhishan. So Vibhishan, though supposed to go downward with Ravan, he ascended upward towards Rama with the help of Hanuman. Apana governs elimination, purification, and the downward grounding force. Vyana is Sita. So Sita is all-pervading like Vyana, spreading grace, love, and nourishment everywhere. She circulates Rama's Shakti, or power, through the world, just as Vyana circulates energy throughout the body. And
Right.
Samana, lastly, identifies with Lakshman. So
Right.
Samana balances Prana and Apana at the navel, distributing the fire of Jataragni and harmonizing opposite flows. Lakshman is exactly this. He is Rama's balancing force, always by his side, absorbing, harmonizing, and tirelessly holding together service, discipline, and action. Like Samana, which receives both upward and downward currents and keeps them in balance, Lakshman stands between Rama and the world, stabilizing the play of forces.
Right.
So I thought this was a very interesting
Amazing.
tidbits, that we
Yeah,
learned.
yeah. Amazing.
And something that we can sort of identify with, because we wake up every day and we breathe and we take our breath for granted, but we don't realize that we don't just have inhalation and exhalation. There's a lot of other functions that are going on with the power of this vital air, that
Right.
Hanuman represents.
Right.
So this is how everybody can sort of personally sort of tie in how Hanuman aids them every single day.
Right.
And now I'd like to actually bring to light a few other things. So, you know how a lot of us pray to deities, and we want many of the yogis gain supernatural powers and things like that. So the ones who deserve them, they usually receive them from Hanuman and from Lord Ganesha. Apparently, those are the two most approachable deities who can bestow these siddhis, or supernatural powers, upon the yogis or the seekers. So they're very quick to grant you these things, whereas other
Right.
deities may not be that fast. So those are some of the unique nuggets I think I wanted to share about. And of course, just like Ganesha, we had done this episode on Ganesha,
Right.
and we talked about, and Christian spoke about how in other religions and other countries, how Ganesha is viewed and how he's actually given some sort of importance,
Right.
as a deity.
Right.
And Hanuman is similarly viewed that way.
Right.
I'm not going to really talk about all the different countries and the different traditions that view that, but
Right.
suffice it to say, it's not just within the Indian community or not just within the
Right.
Indian subcontinent, but it goes beyond that.
Right.
So Hanuman is also identified and viewed as a very auspicious deity in other traditions and other countries and other cultures. Now I wanted to talk about some mantras and shlokas that are associated with Hanumanji. Simple ones that people can chant daily are called the seed mantras or bija mantras. So the full form of the bija mantra is Om Aim Hrim Hanumate Shri Rama Dutaya Namaha. So it's Om Aim Hrim Hanumate Shri Rama Dutaya Namaha. So it's basically saying we invoke the grace of the great messenger of Ram. A shorter form of that is Om Ham Hanumataye Namaha. Om Ham Hanumataye Namaha. Just like you have Om Dum Durgaye Namaha, Om Aim Saraswatiye Swaha, you have Om Ham Hanumataye Namaha. So people can even chant this on the bead. They can do japa with this because it's very, very short. But it's very powerful. So along with that, we also have several compositions that were written by Sant Tulasidas, who was the author of the Hanuman Chalisa, and we're going to recite that after I'm done going through this list. But I do want to mention that he composed some other great works on Hanuman that wasn't just the Hanuman Chalisa. So there's one called the Hanuman Bahuk. Hanuman Bahuk. It's 44 verses, And it's meant for somebody who's very sick, facing a lot of adverse situations. And because Sant Tulasidas himself had dealt with a very severe illness to the point where he couldn't even lift his arm to do anything. He was struck with this illness, and it was causing him a lot of fatigue and weakness. So somehow he still composed this, and that's called the Hanuman Bahuk. And that actually helped him recover fully from this. So it sort of ties into something like what Sangeetha spoke about her daughter's situation there. Then there's one called the Bajrang Ban. Have you heard of this? Yeah, so Bajrang Ban is another composition of 40 verses, and its purpose is to overcome obstacles and negative forces within and without you. So that's another incredible one. And Ban means arrow, and Bajrang is obviously another name for Hanuman, Bajrang Bali. But I want to clarify one thing about this name, Bajrang Bali. So it morphed into the Bajrang, but what it actually is Vajra Ang. So he's actually, Vajra Ang means diamond-bodied one. So one who has the fortified body that can be as strong as a diamond. So Vajra Ang is what ultimately became Bajrang. So I just wanted to mention that. Another one that you may or may not know, Vikram, is called Hanuman Stavan. It's 9 verses. And that's a very popular one because you hear a lot of lines from that one. Like you might have heard of Atulita Baladhamam, Hema Shaila Badeham, Dhanujavan Krishanam, Gyaninam Agraganyam. So what that means is first among the monkeys, all goodness finds a home in you. You are the most beloved of Ram's devotees. Son of the wind, I bow to you. And there's Manojavam, Marutatulya Vegam, Jitendriyam, Buddhimatam Varishtam, Vatatmajam, Vanara Yuta Mukhyam, Shri Ramadutam, Sharanam Prapadye. So that's these are the 2 of the ones that I wanted to read out, which are very well known. So wherever Ram's name is being sung, you go there and bow. Your eyes filled with tears of love, Son of the wind, destroyer of demons, I bow to you, I bow to you, I bow to you. So the Hanuman Stavan, that's very popular and a shorter one for people to recite if they wish to learn it. And one more I wanted to mention before I get to the Hanuman Chalisa is the Gayatri Mantra. As I mentioned, I think maybe in a previous episode, that there are many deities that have a Gayatri Mantra connected to them. So just like Om Shri Mahalakshmi Cha Vidmahe Vishnu Patni Cha Dhimahi Tanno Lakshmi Prachodayat. So anytime you hear that Vidmahe and Dhimahi and Prachodayat at the end, that's a Gayatri Mantra that has been sort of linked with other deities. So Hanuman's Gayatri is Om Anjaneyaya Vidmahe Vayuputraya Dhimahi Tanno Hanumat Prachodayat. So that is the Hanuman Gayatri. And now I'd like to recite or actually sing a very lovely melody that I really enjoyed. I've heard so many different versions of the Hanuman Chalisa, as I'm sure many of you have as well. But there's one very light melody that really touched me, and I thought it would be appropriate to sing in that melody. So, Shri Guru Charana Saroj Raj Nij Manu Mukur Sudhari Varnau Raghuvar Bimal Jasu Jodaya Kuphalachari Buddhihin Tanu Janike Sumiro Pavan Kumar Bala Buddhi Vidya Dehu Mohi Harahu Kalesha Bikar Siyavar Ramchandra Pad Jai Sharanam Jaya Hanuman Gyan Guna Sagar Jaya Kapis Tihu Loka Ujagar Ramaduta Atulita Baladhama Anjani Putra Pavan Sutnama Mahavir Vikram Bajrangi Kumati Nivar Sumati Ke Sangi Kanchana Varana Viraj Subesa Kanana Kundala Kunchit Kesa हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे, कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे। शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन, तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन। विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर, राम काज करिबे को आतुर। प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया, राम लखन सीता मन बसिया। सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा, विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा। भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे, रामचंद्र के काज सवारे। लाय संजीवन लखन जियाए, श्री रघुवीर हरषि उर लाए। रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बढ़ाई, तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई। सहस बदन तुम्हरो जस गावे, अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा, नारद शारद सहित अहिसा। जम कुबेर दिक्पाल जहाते, कवि कोविद कह सके कहाते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा, राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा। तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। जुग सहस्र जो जन पर भानु, लील्योताहि मधुर फल जानु। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि, जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाहि। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम रे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे। सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी शरणा, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज सम्हारो आपे, तीनों लोक हाँकते कांपे। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासै रोग हरे सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत वीरा। संकट से हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों जुग पर ताप तुम्हारा, है पर सिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नौ निधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। तुमरे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्त न धरई, हनुमत से ही सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाई। जो शत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूट ही बंदी महासुख होई। जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साखी गौरीसा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, की जय नाथ हृदय महडेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसौ सुरभूप। मंगल मूर्ति मारुत नंदन, सकल मंगल मूल निखंदन। मंगल मूर्ति मारुत नंदन, सकल मंगल मूल निखंदन। Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, 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 Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, if anybody wants to actually hear this, it was composed and sung by Krishnadas, who's a great Western Kirtan singer, and he did an entire album just with Hanuman Chalisas in different melodies. And this one is called Mountain Chalisa. And
Wow.
and his guru, Neem Karoli Babaji, who many may have heard of, he was very popular, way back in the late 60s and 70s when many Westerners had gone to India, to Kanchi Dham near Nainital. And his shrine is still there. And he was a very exalted master. And Krishnadas was his disciple. And those devotees considered him an Anshavatar, or a part manifestation of Hanumanji himself.
Wow.
So he was in our modern times, and they considered him to be an avatar of Hanuman because he said he continuously chanted the holy name of Ram effortlessly. It's almost like it was just happening within him all the time. And he told people in Hindi, because he couldn't speak English, but people were interpreted in English. So in Hindi, he said, Ram naam lene se sab pura ho jata hai. That means by reciting the holy name of Ram, everything is possible. Anything can be achieved. So please do check out this version of the Chalisa. It's from the album called Flow of Grace. So
Yeah, and real quick, I just a couple things I wanted to mention about the Hanuman Chalisa, both
please.
in terms of its significance, but also personal anecdotes. So broadly speaking, this is just like, when we finish a traditional, puja, or like a Satyanarayan puja or something, you do the aarti, right? Om Jai Jagdish. The Hanuman Chalisa, there is a Hanuman aarti as well.
It goes, Aarti ki jai Hanuman lala ki.
But the Hanuman Chalisa is considered to be the hymn, I guess you could say.
The cream of the crop, I guess.
The cream of the crop.
When it comes to Hanumanji, yes.
When it comes to Hanumanji, I mean, that's the definitive thing, that if you want to worship him and get his blessings, then this is what you would do. And oftentimes people use this for protection, for strength, for courage. It's considered to be the mantra that will serve as a shield for you against any sort of fear, negativity, adversity. It'll help bring peace to your mind. It'll help grow your discipline. For me personally, Sangeetha was sharing some stories, but this is tied to the Hanuman Chalisa, and also it's just tied to maybe my personal connection with Hanumanji. So it was not until I was in college where I really knew about the Hanuman Chalisa, and also what its power was. So I started reciting it when I was in college, just kind of generally, Then I used to recite it every day, and then I eventually memorized it. Folks, it's actually fairly easy to memorize. So despite it being a very long thing, it's very easy to memorize, which is also wonderful from a, puja standpoint or worship standpoint. But when I finished college, I was trying to figure out what to do career-wise. And nothing was happening. No opportunities were coming up. I was applying to hundreds of places and, getting rejected. Nothing was happening. So I graduated in May, and June comes by. July comes by. And then we are in August, and I still don't know what's happening. I start to get very disheartened. I start to see people around me getting settled, all that, and nothing good is happening. I don't know what to do. And one night, I broke down. I was like, I just don't know what to do. I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to, but nothing is happening. And you mentioned, Prat, about that incident of Hanumanji putting Ram and Lakshman on his arms and
Yeah.
flying. So I have a 12-part children's, it's like pictures Ramayan set, right?
Mhm.
So one of the books, the cover of that book is that photo of Hanumanji standing. He's tall and he has them on his shoulders. When I wanted to worship Hanumanji, I would kind of prop that book cover up and would pray to it. So this one particular night during this period, I broke down and I put that picture up and I recited the Chalisa, and I said, please, please just help me. I need to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
You're not gonna believe this, Prat, but the next day, two things happened. One is I got this internship opportunity, which actually set into motion my entire career to what it is today.
Wow.
That happened the next day. Secondly, I got news that I was cast in the play Khidkiyan that Amol Palekar was going to direct.
Wow.
That all happened the next day after
Huh.
that night of breaking down and praying and doing the Chalisa.
Yeah.
Since that day till today, the connection that I have with Hanumanji, and there's been other smaller things along the way where I've needed some help and I've prayed and he's been gracious in all steps of the way. So since that day, it's been, this connection has been there.
Wow.
And which is why I was particularly excited about this episode, because it's
Yeah.
if there's one God that I pray to regularly, it's Hanumanji. And because I've he's had my back, as
Absolutely.
in common parlance.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Anybody who chants the name of Ram, he's got his back instantly, I think. And
Yes.
we receive that grace, when we do sincerely pray and, when we give up all expectations or whatever and just say, you steer the ship.
Yeah.
That's when they come to our aid,
Right.
Till then, no matter what you do and how
Yeah.
many days you might be applying for jobs, you
Yeah.
may not get a phone call. And you're like,
Right.
what is going on?
Right.
You feel very helpless.
Right.
But
And I didn't get a chance to make this point when Sangeetha was here, but she talked about her daughter's illness and then getting better. But in the Hanuman Chalisa, there's a line, Na se rog hare sab pida, meaning
right.
he gets rid of the disease, gets rid of all pain, and that was
Evident
manifested right there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This is more of like a fun thing as opposed to a serious thing, but just to put into perspective about the Chalisa also, there's a horror movie called 1920. I don't know if you've seen it. Bollywood horror movie.
Okay.
Basically about a husband-wife. It takes place in the year 1920. The wife gets possessed by an evil spirit. How does the husband drive out the evil spirit at the end? He recites the Hanuman Chalisa, to her. And there's a line in there in the Chalisa, Bhoot Pishach Nikat Nahi Ave Mahavir Jab Naam Sunave, right?
Right.
So that's where that line comes. And even if you've seen some comedic films when some people are in like a scary location and they start reciting the Hanuman Chalisa for protection from evil spirits and all that, so it's very relevant everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting about this composition, because that's the one about Tulasidas that most people knew. I obviously went through all the other ones that he had done on Hanuman, but this one stands out obviously. But did you know that for Tulasidas ji to actually write the Ramcharitmanasa, Hanuman was very instrumental in getting him the darshan of Ram and Lakshman. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Hanuman Ji actually was the first one that he sought the grace from. And he said, I need you to give me darshan first. So he was seeking the grace and the darshan of Lord Hanuman. And when Hanuman finally did give him darshan, he was then very, very anxious to see Bhagwan Ram. He wanted to get Ram's darshan. So Hanuman was the one who said, I'll work on that. I'll talk to the Lord and I'll make it happen. So eventually he gets that darshan of Ram. I believe that's when he's inspired to write the Ramcharitmanasa.
Amazing.
So,
I didn't know
Hanuman
that.
kind of like held his hand through the whole journey of his turn towards becoming a saint and a poet.
Wow.
So, and from the saint and poet who was Tulasidas, I believe we're shedding a spotlight this month on another such saint and poet. Vikram, why don't you tell us who we're shedding the spotlight on this time?
Yes. And it's my great privilege to talk about Shri Surdas. So he was actually born in roughly the late 1400s. He was blind from birth, and he always had this kind of spiritual inclination. Poet, he was a musician, and he's most known for his devotion to Lord Krishna. But it's not just devotion to Lord Krishna in any form. Specifically, his attachment was to Lord Krishna as a child. So, although he was blind, the visions that he would have of Lord Krishna were as a kid. A little bit about him. He was actually born in extreme poverty. And unfortunately, on top of that, because he was blind, his parents did not keep him well. He faced a lot of neglect and a lot of adversity. And ultimately, he left when he was 6 years old, and he became a wandering singer. So when he joined the wandering singers, that really started his journey even deeper into spirituality. It was a type of renunciation. When he grew a little older, in his 30s specifically, he met Maharishi Vallabhacharya. And Maharishi Vallabhacharya, many of you may identify him with Srinath Ji. So there's, famous pictures and all of a saint-like figure in white going to pray to Srinath Ji. So that's Vallabhacharya. Vallabhacharya brought him into the spiritual sect that he was a part of, and really encouraged him to sing of Lord Krishna's pastimes and his leelas, which became Surdas's hallmark. One very interesting thing among many that happened was that, one day Surdas fell into a well, and he called out for Krishna's help. Couple of days, passed by as he was in there, and a little boy, grabbed his hand and pulled him out. And Surdas knew that was a little Lord Krishna helping him out. Mm-hmm. So he brought him out of that. And there's another story about, he met Radharani once, and he pulled off her anklets. And after that incident, Lord Krishna offered him sight as a blessing, as a boon. But interestingly, Surdas declined, and he said that he did not see anything else in the world after having seen the divine. So he asked to remain blind. He said, I don't need to see anything else. I see you, and that's enough for me. So he was also around during this time, during the same time as Emperor Akbar, the Mughal emperor. And Emperor Akbar really wanted Surdas to come to the court and sing for him, but Surdas always declined. So Emperor Akbar himself would actually go and visit Surdas and hear him sing. And Surdas refused to go to the court on the grounds that he said that he only sang in the court of the Lord. So that's a little bit about him as a person. He's also known for creating something called the Sur Sagar, or Ocean of Melody. And this piece has thousands of his devotional poems, which are written in the famous Braj Bhasha, or Braj language, right? Many of which are still sung today. And, so he's really considered a true Bhakt, and he has this unique distinction of singing the praises of a young Lord Krishna. So actually in Ramanand Sagar's Krishna, although this is not necessarily accurate from a time period standpoint, there is an episode or two where Surdas is featured. And it's really memorable because he's singing a song which is so beautiful, which is called Manva Prem Jagat Ka Sar, meaning that, my heart, love is, what makes the world go
The
round.
essence of the world.
The essence of,
Sure.
Yeah. And that's really who he was. He was all love. He was all devotion. And really a remarkable figure. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for, giving us a brief sketch of his life. And, his guru, who you mentioned, Sri Vallabhacharya, he led one of the schools of Vedanta, which is known as Shuddhadvaita, or pure non-dualism. I'm not going to go into the description of all that, but because there are just minute differences with the main schools. But the reason we did the spotlight on Surdas Ji is because his birth anniversary is coming up on the 19th of this month. And his guru, Sri Vallabhacharya's birth anniversary has just passed us a few days ago. That's a nice little connection there, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. And similar reason why we decided to do Hanuman Ji's special today in this month of April is because earlier this month, I think it was the 1st or 2nd of this month, was Hanuman Jayanti.
Yeah.
And it's largely celebrated by most of the Hindu community, but I know in the South, the Tamil community celebrates it later this year. So there are 2 Hanuman Jayantis, believe it or not. But I think the one that's predominantly celebrated is this one in the spring. And it falls right between Ram Navami, which is Lord Ram's birthday, and Sita Navami. So you have that nice little connection there. On that note, I hope you all enjoyed this episode. We just scratched the surface on Shri Hanuman Ji's glories. There's no end to them. And if anything, I hope you all are inspired to learn more about Hanuman Ji through whichever method you wish to. I request everybody to, if possible, get in the habit of reciting the Hanuman Chalisa. I think it's a great practice. It'll give you inner strength, as we've mentioned, courage and wisdom, and the ability to get through life's challenges and all that. So I personally do it every day. As Vikrum mentioned, Sangeetha mentioned, they also do. So it's a great practice. So please try to do that. And all I can say is, Siyavara Ramachandra ki
Jai.
Pavanasuta Hanuman ki
Jai.
May you all be well and in good health and happiness. Om Shanti.